when I gave up alcohol, man, I gave up everything. Like I gave up, and I'm okay to talk about this. So I gave up cocaine, I gave up weed, I gave up ecstasy, I gave everything up. So, the thing is, when I became sober, I cut it all out, nothing. And, that's it. Like nothing. Like, hey, do I want to do this drinking thing every weekend, or do I want to build relationships with the people that care for me the most? And I chose that over the drinking, and it was the wise decision.
All right, welcome back to Too Hard, Too Fast, the podcast with strong opinions about things that we may or may not know too much about in order to broaden perspectives. Today we have Christopher Matz with us. He has a really amazing story to tell. It's his story from coming from hitting rock bottom, if I could say that, Chris, to recovery and being, I would think, from what I see, from an outside perspective, living a successful life and still growing from it.
Absolutely.
So with that said, sit back, buckle up, let's go Too Hard, Too Fast.
All right.
All right, Chris. Once again, thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it. The way I met you is I work with your mom as a teacher, who I 100% respect so much. And for the longest time, her classroom was right next to my classroom. So I can hear her singing and teaching the kindergarten kids. And now we're like halfway across the building. And every time I see her, I'm like, that's one of the things I miss the most is her singing and her like interacting with the kids. She's a super funny lady, and I respect her so much. So from that, I got to see your story of becoming sober, and each time she posts how proud she is of you, I kind of like I see it, and it influences me in a positive way. Like it almost without really even having a connection to you, it makes me proud of you. And I don't know if that's weird to say, but it's just, it's a cool thing to see someone taking control of their life and making something for the best.
Yeah. I start off with gratitude always. So Worm and George, I appreciate you guys having me on your podcast. Thank you for allowing me to share some of my story with you guys. I really appreciate it. Yeah, man, I appreciate the kind words, George. It was it's been a life-changing event for me, for many years, man. Alcohol, partying, that lifestyle, that's how I lived my life, man, for like 15 years, hardcore. And I had a lot of fun. I have some memories that some of them I remember, some of them I don't, but it was a lot of fun, man. But it got to a point in my life where you mentioned my mother, who, it sounds like she shares the same type of, she speaks very highly of you as well. But she and my sister, I'm extremely close to both of them. And it came to a point in my life where my mom would tell me, I was two different people. One that she would see, over at their house on Sunday nights for dinner. And then another one she would see on social media or hear about through my friends or hear from my sister, and I didn't want to come to the reality of it, but it was true. I was living two different lives. One, I was trying to be this good person. And then this other one, I was trying to be this flamboyant, arrogant type of playboy that, I became to despise. And I came to a point in my life where I needed to change to become a better man, a better son, a better brother. And that has brought me to sobriety. And so, it was rock bottom for me because I was about to lose, not rock bottom there's different types of forms of rock bottom out there, but, I was still had a place to live. I had a car, I had a job, but I was about to lose the most important things in my life, and that was my family. And so that made me hit rock bottom and made me make a life-changing decision.
Before we dive deeper into your story, one thing I know your mom kind of worried about, and I don't know, you said you weren't worried about it, and it was cool with you. When we start the show, we usually have like a drink with us, and we kind of explain. We do like a drink review of our favorite beer, or the new beer that we're trying out. But we're in this podcast, we're not gonna have that. And you said we could, but out of respect and out of like honor, and I said on the phone with you, like, it's weird to say honor, but really, like, you've accomplished so much. We want to honor that. So today we don't have a drink review per se, but my wife this morning made a smoothie, and I was halfway done with it when I realized this would be good to put on the podcast, because you're like a health enthusiast now. And, Rona hasn't been kind to me. I put on that Rona weight. So she's been doing smoothies with, and that's what I have today. And it's got like all kinds of vegetables and like mushrooms and eggplant and all kinds of fruits and vegetables, supplements. It's really good. The weird thing about it with this one, it has like have you ever had Lucas?
Yeah.
Growing up in San Antonio, right? Yeah. You probably have.
Yeah, so I've had it.
It has that flavor of Lucas. And I was like, did you put tahine or Lucas in this? Because that's exactly what it tastes like. So really enjoyed it. And that's what I'm having today.
Well, I appreciate the kind gesture, gentlemen. Like I said, you didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. And that means a lot to me.
No worries. I don't know about Worm. Worm might be some things under that mask.
What I wanted to hear is, George mentioned his smoothie, and what is there anything that you do that I guess you recommend for others also? Well,
as George mentioned, man, I'm really into health and fitness right now. So like 90% of what I do and what I drink is typically pretty healthy. And so I do protein shakes. Probably like my favorite meal that I consume a day, man, is I don't know how good it sounds to you guys, but it's something I look forward to every day. Is healthy food is kind of boring, but I do whole oats, but then I put a scoop of protein and sugar-free syrup, and then I put blueberries in it, and I mix it all up, man, and it tastes like this magnificent, like, blueberry sweet vanilla pancakes, man. It's like the thing that I look forward to every day. So that's one of the things that I drink and eat every day is the protein oats.
So that's one thing that I've started, I guess, realizing is we have to fuel our bodies, so we have to be aware of what we're consuming. So that's something that I'm just getting into to try to be a little bit healthier.
Sure.
I know I need to cut on my alcohol consumption, but I'm working on that little too. But aside from that, even during the week, instead of eating junk food, instead of eating that, I'm trying to be more conscious too of.
Good for you, man. It starts with those little changes.
No, yeah, definitely. What is there any like specific foods that you would say, man, these are very nutritious?
Yeah. So fish is and I used to hate fish, man. The only fish I liked growing up was like Long John Silvers. I used to love Long Johns, man. I don't even think Long Johns is around anymore, but yeah, man, I love that Long Johns, like fried fish. But now, man, it's like fish is so lean, high in protein, and like no fat. And so the majority of my day, what I eat is jasmine rice and fish and veggies. And that's pretty much it. And I'll do like egg whites, and then I'll do my protein oatmeal. But 90% of it is fish and jasmine rice, because fish is it's so easy to digest. It's lean. My girlfriend actually makes it, but she makes it so it does. She uses some real the spices that she uses are real healthy, and so that's what I recommend if people are really trying to. And I talk to my I have a health coach. He writes my diet for me and everything. And,
Wow.
fish is the way to go for if you're really trying to get in really good shape, is because it trims the body fat down. It's good for your cholesterol, high blood pressure, everything. It's so good. It has omega-3 fatty acids in it. It's so good for you.
And do you
Okay,
alternate
so
between
now
like
here's
tuna or
Yeah.
tilapia or salmon, all that
Tilapia,
stuff?
tuna. If you want to get real hardcore, like I have some buddies that eat sardines straight out of the can, which I don't recommend.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. Yeah, it's gross. I couldn't do that. But we do. I get a shout out to Lion's Den Meal Prep Service. They are the best in San Antonio. They do all my my meals for me, so I don't have to go to HEB and find it. They cook it all and they deliver
Oh,
it
wow.
to your. And anybody can use them. It's called Lion's Den Meal Prep Services. And George, the owner, he does Alaskan cod for me, and he'll do
I
it
know
on the
you own that,
outside.
George. Not this George, right? Oh, not this George. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, he does, he measures my fish out for me, and then it's so easy, man. I just throw it in the microwave. I have about 4 meals a day of it, and my girlfriend seasons it, and I eat it. I don't have to cook. I don't have to go to HEB. I don't have to do any of that. It's all done for me. So it's pretty cool and
Yeah,
easy.
that's a good
All right, so
option.
I'm gonna stir up a little hate right now because I think this is an interesting one. Are you the one in the office that heats up
No.
fish in the microwave?
No, oh man, I don't do that. No, I despise that person. No, I can't do it. No, luckily, well, due to the corona, like, I'm the only one eating in my office kitchen, but no, I wouldn't be that guy, man. I'd have to go downstairs to like the cafeteria to do all that.
Let's go back into your story. Before getting into the healthy lifestyle, you said you were part of a Playboy lifestyle, or you were trying to be. What were you actually trying to reach by having this kind of lifestyle? And I'm only asking this because I think in college I went out and I grew up with the college movies, and this is what college should be. When I went to college, I said, I want that college lifestyle, the party.
Yep.
I went with a goal to get out of college, to graduate. That was always the set in mind, but also I wanted the spring break. So, and I feel like I did every spring break possible. I was lucky enough to do it. But after that, once you do that, what's next? How do you, for you at least, what was that lifestyle that you were trying to, or what were you trying to get from that lifestyle?
Let me say this, and this is the honest truth here. Okay, so I did. I got in trouble here when I was. My mom, she can tell you a whole different story about this, but I got in big trouble when I was like 17 or 18, and I got pretty much kicked out of San Antonio. So I had to go live with my grandmother in Kansas. And granted, this is like a small country town in Kansas, and I've always lived in big cities, and so. It was a big, huge change for me. So I had to move to Kansas and go, and didn't want to go. And I started to go to college, and that's where I really got, George, just like you said, man, I got into that really, the party, the Animal House, the old school, all that party stuff. It just started. That's where I really got into it. And that's because I didn't really drink a lot before I went to Kansas. I was just a bad kid, and I moved up there, and that's when it really started. And, I did go to spring breaks just like you, man. I went to all of them. I was a bartender. So I kind of started to get the Playboy image there, man, because when you're the bartender in a hot college bar, like the spot, that one spot where everybody goes, you think you're the man or whatever. It's an ego thing. And, it's funny to say, people ask me this, and I'm not saying this, I humbly say this, but I did not, when I graduated with my undergrad, I didn't know what to do with my life. I was 27 years old because I didn't go to school for 3 years. And, I wanted to stay and be a kid in college. So I went and got my master's, but I didn't do that for the educational aspect of it. That's not why I did it. I did it so I could stay and party and stay in college and continue that lifestyle. That's the honest truth. And when people ask me that, I'll tell them, like, look, I didn't want to get a master's degree. I just did it so I could get a year and a half of partying left, and I enjoyed the year and a half. But to get to your point, like, I was trying to be the guy that had all the girls, the person that, you know, I really wanted to be is I started to despise him, man, because I would just, you know, I would date girls, and then I got a reputation for being a bad guy, and I would make stupid decisions drinking. And, you know, it's just, I liked him for a while, man. But then after a while, I became to hate him. And, you know, it's the persona that my mom was talking about. Is she was absolutely correct when she was telling me that, you know, I was two different people, and it was hard for me to admit that at first, but she was telling the truth. And, you know, that's ultimately what made me change. I hope that answered your question, man. I'm kind of reared off there, but just, you know, trying to keep it real with you guys.
No,
No, no, no. I find it amazing how getting your master's was the side thing. The main thing was partying.
It was.
The
Hey,
master,
man,
the courses were probably easier. So.
Yeah,
Oh, but that shows your
man.
intelligence also, that you're capable of still doing that.
And I don't even remember half the stuff I did during that, man. I was so hazy, and yeah, but got through it, and you know, I came out of it. But that was that was a fun 6.5 years, I think. Yeah, almost 7.
Have you
but
thought
it
about
is
your
true.
PhD?
You know, where I was actually thinking about getting a PhD after I got my master's degree, but I don't think
Yeah,
they didn't have a doctoral program where I was at, because I would have done it. I would have went straight through it.
Oh, yeah.
No, but just going off with what Worm actually said, yeah, that it's not very often that you see the partier even graduate with his bachelor's or his or her bachelor's when they are living the lifestyle of party. And like usually, unfortunately, most of the time they flunk out, or you know, they waste their money in different things, alcohol, drugs, parties, travel. You know, they don't use their time wisely, whatever it is, and they fail out. So I think you more so, I don't know, maybe both of us got real lucky with how we did, and that we did graduate. I didn't go into my master's till like much later in life, so, and there was no partying then either. but I think,
And yeah, it's awesome.
but I think that if I had the opportunity to keep going and continue the partying, I probably would have to. And
Yeah.
you know, it was a different time, and it was a different lifestyle, and sometimes I reminisce about it. It was so funny. I was talking, I was trying to picture like what I'm gonna ask you, what we're gonna talk about, how we're gonna relate, and I was like, you know, I like to party. I still like to party. I don't do it very often as much. I think this podcast is the most partying I get.
Yeah.
But
I'm a bad influence.
no, I'm trying to go over what I'm gonna ask you and how we're gonna tell your story and do justice by it. She goes, "What are you doing?" And without it be like, I just like to mess with my wife. I'm like, I'm reminiscing of the times when bad decisions weren't mistakes yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it as a joke, but she was like, "Oh, that hits hard," because you know, we all made bad decisions, whether it was under the influence or not. But we all made bad decisions, and we don't know it till much later in life that those bad decisions eventually made mistakes, or became mistakes, and mistakes that we're still trying to pay for or trying to correct later on in life.
Yeah, man. That, perfectly well said, George. And, you know, I'll add something to that. You know, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, if I could get away with, like, having a beer with you guys right now, I would do it. And I tell people this all the time. If I could still party, I would. But the thing about it is, I know I can't, because I'm not like a normal person. Like, if I have a beer, I may be okay then, but tomorrow I'll have a beer and then I want another one and another one and another one. When I start to have the beers, like, there's no off switch, man. It's full grown party all the way. And I'm going to go hard. And that is where I know that it's just for me, and not for everybody, but just for me. Like, I know I can't even have one. And I get asked that all the time. You can't just have one beer, man, or one shot. no, I can't, because if I get back into that, like, it's going to be right back into that lifestyle. Like, I never left. I'll jump right back in it. And to your point, all the big mistakes that I made. And George, I think my mom shared that story with you where, you know, my stepdad took me to a Spurs game. I ended up blacking out at the Spurs game, man. And they had to come pick me up at this girl's apartment, man, on the other side of town, like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was blackout drunk, like little things like that. I didn't get in trouble every time that I drank alcohol. I didn't, and had a lot of fun doing it. But every time that I got in trouble, alcohol was involved every single time. And that's where I did a checklist. And I'm like, well, what about this time I was drinking? Well, damn, what about this time I was drinking? And so that's where I knew that drinking was a major issue in my life.
Before going any further, how long have you been sober?
So my sobriety date is February 28, 2017. So coming up on 4 years.
4 years, wow.
Yeah.
And it almost sounds offensive, at least for me. And I'm not even in, you know, going through the sobriety or trying to be in the sobriety.
Yeah.
To ask someone that who's fighting sobriety or trying to stay sober, because like would your program or you being sober, it says every day is a fight. I don't know if it's true for you, but every day is a fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, it is.
Is it offensive? And maybe not for you because you're very easygoing, or it seems like you are. To ask them, you can't even just have one beer. Like it almost diminishes 4 years of hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, it's not people that know me. They don't ask that question. It's not one of those things. It's one of those things where I'll be at a social event or I'll be hanging out with my buddies and we'll be at a sports bar. And like I said, I don't have a problem going around drinking. I don't. I'm around it a lot. But, you know, if somebody doesn't know me, they'll ask me, hey, do you want a shot? And that's where it's be like, no, I'm good, man. I'm chill. I don't need a shot or I don't need a drink. And then that's where they'll ask the question like, hey, you just don't want one? And I just don't get into logistics of it all. I'm just like, no, I'm good. And usually after I tell them that, there's not a problem after that. They respect it.
It's weird because I guess we've all had that friend that, you know, is a partier, or maybe we're that friend and we decide to do something.
George is that friend for me. I tell him, hey man,
George is that friend.
And he thought, no man, just be a bro. Yeah, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So you know, that one friend that decides to quit for Sober October, or, you know, no drink January, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And we have that one friend that goes, dude, come on, man. Why are you doing this? It's like, it's dumb.
Yeah.
You're just going to go back at it in November, and you're going to go twice as much. But to that person in a different perspective, I've been on both sides where it's like, hey, I'm going to do Sober October. And then I get that one person, dude, just one. Or I'm in town, we're hanging out, and having that friend doing it. And it's like, dude, you're kind of boring. Like, you're being boring right now. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that? Or how does that even come up anymore after 4 years?
Good point, man. And, you know, prior to our call, you know, I mentioned this and I'll be happy to talk about it now. It's one of those things where, you know, I knew for a long time when I was still drinking, when I was still partying, that I needed to quit because it would be like one of those things. Man, I was such a professional alcoholic that I would go out and I would plan the next day. So I would try to get over my hangover so I could do it the following day. Like, I wouldn't drink really during the week. Like, I was trying to be a professional person Monday through Friday, but on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it was on. And so, like, I would go and I would plan it all out. I would get like a Pedialyte, a 5-hour energy, and have them by my bed. And so in the morning when I wake up, I drink the Pedialyte, the 5-hour energy, to give me that boost. I'd reach a rehydration so I could get good and be ready for Saturday night and then Sunday fun day. And so I had my day set. And so it was like that for like 3-4 years. And I got to a point where I was like, man, I really need to quit. But the thing that held me back was the fact that I didn't think that I would be able to enjoy life, man. Like, because everything that I did, go to a Spurs game, go to a restaurant, go to a friend's birthday party, go to a happy hour, involved drinking. Every single place that I went, it involved drinking. And I was like, man, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to navigate through the things that I've thoroughly enjoyed for the last 15 years without alcohol? And that was my biggest fear. I couldn't have fun. I'd be boring. And I've learned through the 3.5 years I've been sober and I think I'm more in tune, I'm more fun, I'm more present than I was when I was just drinking and partying, man. I'm more, then people tell me that. It's just not me saying that. It's like, man, you're really, there's something different about you. And so, because when I was drinking, man, I was just worried about that next drink, the next shot, who's going to get the round. And I was never really in tune to the present moment. But now, I'm sober. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying people's presence. I'm listening to their story instead of just thinking about myself all the time. And so I've learned to adapt. I've learned to actually enjoy going to the Spurs game sober. I actually remember the plays and who won the game, and I actually can drive home and I don't have to spend money on a $45 Uber and, or Whataburger after the game. And, I can drive friends and they're thankful that I'm the one driving and it doesn't bother me. And, things like that. I've learned to really, enjoy life again. I'm kind of living like this brand new life that I never knew was out there through sobriety, man. And just some of the things that I just never appreciated, now I appreciate due to being sober and being in the present moment. Hope that makes sense.
Perfect.
Man, you really kind of hit home, I guess, for me. So you, because usually when you think of an alcoholic, you think of someone that has to drink every day, someone that has to get drunk every day. But you mentioned earlier that, you kept it professional Monday through Friday, but once Friday and Saturday came along, that's when, you would plan everything. So that's kind of where I'm at, man. So now you're making me think like, crap, well, maybe, so is it, I guess at what point then should someone ask themselves, do I have a problem? Because you kind of hit it right on for me. But I've always had in my mind, well, I don't have a problem because I don't do it every day, just on the weekends. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, man. And I think ultimately that has to come down to you. I'm never the one to tell somebody, hey, man, like, I think you're an alcoholic. You need to get help. That wouldn't be right of me. That's not what my program teaches me to do. But what I try to do is I try to share my life experiences like I just did. And if you can relate to it, it makes you think about it. Like, do I need to make a change in my life to become the person I've always wanted to be? If you're happy with the person you are, then, and it sounds, Worm, you guys, it sounds like you're a pretty happy dude from, knowing you for the last, 30 minutes, but it ultimately has to come down to you to make the decision. For me, I knew deep down that I needed to make that decision because I knew that on the weekends, man, like, I couldn't just have a drink. I would go till I was full out blackout drunk, and then I would do it all over again. And it was tearing not only me mentally, physically, and emotionally apart, man. It was affecting the people that, loved me the most, and that wasn't worth losing those people. And so ultimately I had to make the choice, like, hey, do I want to do this drinking thing every weekend, or do I want to build relationships with the people that care for me the most? And I chose that over the drinking, and it was the wise decision.
Nice. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So, well, and George, I don't know if George knows this, so I appreciate George being in my life. So the reason for Too Hard, Too Fast, you know what I used to do? I used to just try to chug everything as much as I could, as fast as I could, empty stomach. And then George was, hey, man, you have to eat something for you. So, I think I've gotten a lot better now that I've gotten older, though. But
that's where the name Too Hard, Too Fast came from.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Coming
nice.
in.
That makes sense.
But no, I totally relate to the and I'm like that. I can't just have one. I have to at least have to get at least a buzz. And even then, once I reach that, I still say, nah, I need more. You know what I mean? So, and I
totally get it. Totally get it.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, and then I think a big issue for me too is sometimes, well, and you had mentioned that too. Like if I go visit family, whether it be like my dad, or it'd be cousins, or even if I meet friends, that's part of the, like, I guess, communal thing. Like, hey, let's all have a drink together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's another hard part too. And then same thing, we're like, oh great, yeah, it's just communal. But then for me, it's like, oh, okay, I can't just stop at one. I do need a. So what would be the next steps? Like if I do say, hey, I want to improve this, what would be the next steps?
Well, there's several things you can do, man. For the person, not just for you, but for someone listening to this podcast and just thinks that they want to try a different avenue to life. I am a part of a program called Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know that has a word out there, and people are like, "What AA?" But I'm a proud member, and that's what really changed my life. Is I started attending their meetings, and to be honest with you, both of you, like, I did not want to do that. I thought of, like, when I think of AA, when I thought of AA, I thought like of a smoky, like, bingo hall with a whole bunch of old people sitting in a circle and telling sob stories. That's what I thought mentally in my head that was. But it wasn't. And, I'm so grateful for those people in that program now, and I hold them to the highest element in my life, because what I started to do, and you have to have the humility to do this, is you have to listen. And just like Worm, you were listening to my story, you listen to other people in that program share their stories and share their stories about how they got sober and why they stayed sober. And when they share their stories, you start to hear your story and their story, and you think to yourself, man, I think I actually belong here. And then you keep on going back. Just like I used to drink, on the weekends, I'd always go back to it. I always go back to the AA meetings. And now during this Corona thing, as you guys mentioned, we do everything by Zoom. And so for the person that is struggling out there, that thinks they might have an addiction problem or alcohol problem, what I would recommend you do is just listen. Find an AA meeting online. You can keep anonymous, and you don't have to put your name out there, but just go into a Zoom meeting and listen to what those people have to say. And when you listen and you fully listen and stop thinking about yourself, you'll hear your story and many of their stories and how they became sober and why they stay sober. And so that is one avenue that I would highly recommend for somebody that may think that they may have a drinking problem.
So you mentioned that your program is AA. Is there other because the only program I've ever heard of is AA. Is there other programs out there?
I mean, there's people that get sober that don't use AA. Yeah, I mean, I have buddies, two of my buddies that inspire me to get sober, and we used to go hard in the paint together. And they got sober on their own. They did it on my own. They did it on their own, and me personally, I can't do it. My girlfriend, who's been my girlfriend for 2 years, she has a 1.5 year sobriety, and I'm very, very, so proud of her and grateful for her accomplishment. She never had a drinking problem. We could go out to dinner, and she would have a glass of wine, and she wouldn't finish it. I'm sitting there at dinner like, are you going to finish that wine? Like, it's bothering me that you're not finishing. Because it was me, like, I'd have that one and another one and another one. But she's good with it. She can just have a drink and be cool with it. She did it for more of for her health. And her father was an alcoholic. And so she didn't want to go down that avenue. But she just quit cold turkey. And some people can do it. I'm a witness to it. I have a lot of friends that have done it that way, those two friends that I mentioned earlier. But there's readings, there's spiritual books you can do. There's all types of avenues you can go that doesn't involve AA. But for the majority of people that are serious about their sobriety, the majority of people that I know and spoken to and listened to, they've gone through the AA route.
And I was going to ask you this because you had mentioned it. So sobriety doesn't necessarily mean giving up alcohol. Has there been some people where they just they finally come to the point where they could just have one and stop, or is it just a slippery slope where it's just don't even go down that way?
So sobriety is cutting it all off for him. So you can't, it's completely cutting out alcohol. And so, you know, it comes to a point where, you know, you just, you give it all up. And, you know, there are people out there that come and they go, and I see it all the time. And, some people aren't ready for it, and that's totally fine. It's not on anyone's timeline except their own. And so ultimately it goes back to what we were talking about, is you just have to make that decision. Like, is it best for you to completely give it up? And so when I gave up alcohol, man, I gave up everything. Like, I gave up, and I'm okay to talk about this. So I gave up cocaine, I gave up weed, I gave up ecstasy, I gave everything up. So, you know, the thing is, when I became sober, I cut it all out, nothing. And, you know, that's it, like nothing. And so it's complete.
And so now, like, when you cut everything out, does that include, like, you know, certain medicines have some kind of effects that some have alcohol,
Yeah. It's fun.
I'm sorry, and then some medicines, they make you feel, you know, loopy. Would that like trigger you if you did that?
Funny, man. Like, the first, there's mouthwash that has alcohol in it, and I have to kind of watch that alcohol free. But like, when I first got sober, man, I was going out with this girl, and she was still drinking. And, you know, I was telling her, I think we were at a bar, which I shouldn't have been at a bar, like 3 months sober. But I was there with her. We were on a date or something. And, you know, I was telling her that I drink NyQuil at night to help me ease my nerves and go to bed. And she's like, you know, that has alcohol in it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, what? Does it? And I'm like, no, I don't think it does. And so I go home, and sure enough, it has 5% alcohol in it. And so, like, I consciously, I did not know that. And so now, you know, you have to watch those things you talk about, George. So like, if I take Dayquil, and Dayquil doesn't have alcohol in it, but if I take NyQuil, which I do, it has to be alcohol free. If I take CBD, it has to have the non-THC in it, which is marijuana. I just have to be open-minded. What's another one that I take that has, the main one is the Dayquil and the NyQuil. The mouthwash has, I think, like 3 or 5% alcohol in it, which I don't get that kind. But yeah, you're right. There are some things that, and I told her, like, oh, well, the reason why I was really liking that NyQuil is because I think it had some alcohol. I didn't know, but yeah, it was make me feel like I was loose at night. And I'm like, man, this Sprite's not bad, which in reality, I was still kind of turned, because I would do, like, you know, the normal person does like one thing of NyQuil. Like, I still today do like 2 shots of NyQuil. I always do it to the max. I always go overboard. And so it's like, man, I was really feeling good. It's because it had alcohol in it.
So in that case, would you have, like, you said you were 3 months sober at the time, would you say you had to restart your sobriety?
Yeah, and that's a good question, George. And I asked my sobriety, and I asked other people that were in the program about it. And I was like, hey, you know, I'm willing to do it. It's not a big deal if you want me to change my sobriety date. Unconsciously, if you do that. Now, subconsciously, if I knew that I had alcohol and I did it, that would have ruined my sobriety date. But I had no idea when I got NyQuil that it had alcohol in it. And so now, consciously, when I go into HEB, I always look at the labels. And it's like, for even like a whiskey cake, there's the restaurant in San Antonio at the Rim, real upscale place. I rarely go there, but I went there for a birthday 3 years ago, and they have a cake. It's just called whiskey cake, but they have a cake that is made with whiskey in it. And I couldn't take a bite out of it because it had like more than, like, I think 2% or something like that. I asked the people that made it, and so I got an alternative. But yeah, just got to keep an open mind about stuff like that.
But you still use CBD?
All right, we're gonna pause the conversation here. Remember, you can catch the second half of this podcast on Thursday. Chris, thank you for joining us on part 1. We're gonna continue listening to your story, and then we're gonna listen to your Too Hard Too Fast story, which is the turning point And I think that part is really gonna hit home to a lot of people. I know I follow you. I respect what you guys have, what you have going on. So I think somebody else might benefit from it as well.
Yeah, I use social media as a platform to try to inspire others. So I don't really post anything negative on there. Everything that is very family oriented, and try to be a positive light in those people that are really in dark places. I know that sounds cliche, but it's the truth. So you can find me on Facebook at Christopher Matz, just like it's spelled on the podcast. You can find me on Instagram the same way, and on Twitter at Chris Matz, at Chris Matz. So you just put my name in there, I'll pop up.
Remember, if you're looking for help, don't wait for the next podcast. Look for it now. If you think it's time, look for it now. But with that said, Worm, what are you gonna say?
Yeah, if you go too hard, too fast, and you think you have a problem, definitely seek help.
With that said, another podcast down the drain. And remember, dare to be you, dare to be weird. We'll see you guys on Thursday for the rest of Chris's story. Bye.